All right, so welcome everyone to our deep dive today. And, we are going way back in time.
Way back.
Yeah, we're going back to 360 AD.
Ooh.
It's kind of a fascinating moment because it's a moment when Roman Britain
Okay.
was facing some pretty serious challenges. So
Yeah.
just imagine, a province that is kind of on edge.
Right.
They're dealing with like unrest and threats from all over.
Inside and outside.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And our guide for this little journey is going to be the writings of Ammianus Marcellinus.
Of course, gotta love Ammianus.
Yeah, and he was there.
He was there, which is so cool.
Yeah, he lived through this.
Yeah.
So he's a Roman historian who actually experienced all of this stuff firsthand.
Yeah, and what's so interesting about Ammianus is he's not just, some historian in an ivory tower.
Right.
This guy was a soldier.
A soldier, yeah.
And a scholar, so he brings this very unique perspective to this time period.
Yeah, he's got the real experience.
Yeah.
So he describes this whole situation, and get this, he says, there were invasions in Britain during the 10th consulship of Constantius and the 3rd of Julian, AD 360. The fierce tribes of the Scoti, Irish, and the Picts broke the agreed peace and caused destruction in those areas near the frontiers. British provinces, already diminished by many previous disasters, were overcome with fear.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
I know, right? There's a lot to unpack there, but just like right off the bat, what struck me was, he mentions these fierce tribes.
Yeah.
The Scoti and the Picts breaking an agreed peace.
Yeah, it's very interesting language.
Yeah, so it sounds like there were some treaties or agreements already in place, right?
So that really, I think, points to how complicated the relationship was between the Romans and these groups.
Yeah.
It wasn't just constant war all the time. There were times when they were, getting along, maybe even alliances.
Yeah.
And then punctuated by these moments of huge violence.
Yeah, so almost like a friendship that's kind of on and off again.
Exactly. Yeah, they have a big fight and they try to make up.
Yeah.
But to really get a handle on this, we got to know who we're talking about.
Yeah, who are these guys?
Right. So Ammianus, he calls the Scoti the Irish.
Okay.
Which, might sound a little weird.
Yeah, you think of Ireland as like its own separate island.
Exactly. But back then, remember, things were a lot more fluid. There were actually a lot of Irish settlements along the western coast of Britain.
Oh, so it wasn't quite as clear-cut as we think of it today.
Not at all, no.
Interesting, okay.
And then the Picts, they were up north in what's now Scotland, so above that Roman frontier.
Okay, so you've got trouble brewing kind of inside and outside Roman territory.
Yeah, from all sides, basically.
And he calls them fierce, these groups.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that's Ammianus the soldier, just using some strong language?
Maybe a little bit. Roman writers, they definitely had a way with words,
Yeah.
especially when it came to their enemies.
Right.
It was definitely like a, we're the good guys and they're the bad guys kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But he doesn't just, call them names.
Yeah.
He talks about all this destruction and like provinces being just riddled with fear.
Yeah.
This wasn't just like a little border skirmish.
Right.
This was a major threat to Roman power.
Yeah, and this wasn't even the first time Roman Britain had seen, trouble.
Oh, yeah.
He mentions provinces already diminished by many previous disasters.
Right. They've been through a lot.
So what were some of those things that happened before?
So in like the decades leading up to 360 AD,
Okay.
Roman Britain, they'd seen like internal rebellions,
Okay.
economic problems, even outbreaks of disease.
Oh, wow.
So all these things, they just made the province weaker,
Yeah, less prepared to deal with new threats.
Exactly.
So it's almost like, they're this patient with all these pre-existing conditions.
Yeah.
And then boom, here come the Scoti and the Picts.
That's a great way to put it.
And it's just too much.
And on top of all that, you got to remember the Roman Empire was huge at this point. And it was actually split in two.
Right.
So you had Constantius, the senior emperor, he's ruling in the east.
Okay.
And Julian, his younger cousin, he's in charge of the west, which included Britain.
So maybe that division caused some issues too.
Oh, absolutely, because maybe there were fewer resources to defend Britain,
Oh, interesting.
So that division could have played a role.
Yeah, so we're really getting this picture of Roman Britain in crisis.
Yeah. Trouble on all sides, internal problems.
So what happened next?
That is the big question, right?
Yeah.
Did they manage to get things back under control?
Yeah.
Did they beef up their defenses, maybe make new treaties?
Yeah.
Or did these invasions kind of mark this turning point,
Right.
the beginning of the end for Roman Britain?
Yeah, because they eventually did leave Britain.
Exactly.
So this could be a really pivotal moment.
It really could be.
So much to think about.
It really is fascinating.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how even these huge, powerful empires,
Yeah.
they can be vulnerable to these kinds of pressures.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and that quote from Ammianus, it's like to this window into a really important moment.
Absolutely it is.
Yeah,
And it just raises so many more questions.
yeah,
What happened next? What were the long-term consequences of all this?
yeah,
How did it shape the future of Britain?
yeah.
These are all things that I think are worth exploring more.
Definitely lots to ponder.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us on our deep dive today.
Thanks, everyone.
And be sure to check back next time for another deep dive into history.
See you next time.
Bye.